You wake up before the alarm, not because you have to, because your body is done sleeping. There is no meeting, no commute, no inbox waiting. You lie there for a moment and ask yourself a question that would have made no sense to any human who lived before you. What am I supposed to do today? For 300,000 years, that question had an obvious answer, and the answer was not work, not the way you understand work, not 40 hours a week, fluorescent lights, someone else deciding what your time is worth. That version of life is not normal. It is not ancient. It is not what we are built for. It is 12,000 years old, and before it, something else existed, something we gave up, and most of us have forgotten it was ever ours. In the 1960s, an anthropologist named Richard Lee walked into the Kalahari desert and started counting hours. He lived with the Juhuanzi people, hunter-gatherers. He wanted to know how much time survival actually took. How many hours a day did a human being need to keep a human being alive? The answer stopped him. 17 hours a week, not per day, per week, to find food, prepare it, and sustain a group of people in one of the harshest environments on Earth. 17 hours. You probably work more than twice that before Wednesday. In 1966, anthropologist Marshall Solins read Lee's data and called the Jew/Huanzi the original affluent society, not because they had a lot, because they needed very little, and what they needed they had. The same pattern appeared everywhere researchers looked. The Hadza in Tanzania, studied by Frank Marlowe, the Ache in Paraguay, the Martu in Australia, different continents, different climates, same result, 15 to 20 hours a week on survival. Then the day was yours. Someone always raises the same objection here. Those are modern people living traditional lives. What about our actual ancestors, the ones from 50,000 years ago? 100,000. The bones answer. Archaeologists compared the skeletons of hunter-gatherers with the skeletons of the first farmers who replaced them. The farmers were shorter. Their teeth were riddled with cavities from a diet of grain and porridge. Their spines showed arthritis from repetitive labor. They died younger. The hunter-gatherer skeletons were taller, denser, their teeth intact. Their bodies carried the signature of varied movement, not grinding, repetitive work. The bones don't lie. Heavy daily labor was not the original human condition, but the most unexpected evidence didn't come from bones at all. In 1994, cavers in southern France broke through a rock wall and found a passage no one had entered for 36,000 years. Inside was the Chauvet Cave. On the walls, horses galloping, lions mid-stride, rhinoceroses rendered with shadow and depth and movement. Someone had carried fire into the dark. Someone had spent hours, maybe days, pressing pigment into stone. Not to eat, not to survive, to make something beautiful. This was not a desperate species. This was a species with time. In Blombos Cave in South Africa, archaeologists found shell beads 75,000 years old, decorative, pierced with care, strung together. They found ochre grinding kits, ancient workshops for making pigment, and a piece of ochre with a geometric pattern scratched into it, diamonds repeating. The earliest known design made by human hands. In Fertile Cave in Germany, a vulture bone flute, 40,000 years old. 5 holes, precisely spaced. Someone understood pitch. Someone sat down and made music for the pleasure of sound. These objects don't appear once. They appear across Europe, Africa, and Asia. Jewelry more intricate than survival required. Paintings deeper in caves than firelight could easily reach. Instruments that took skill to build and more skill to play. Hours and hours of human attention poured into things that had no practical value at all. That is what free time looks like. That is what people do when survival doesn't consume them. Let me give you one day, a reconstruction, not fiction, built from the data. You wake at dawn. The fire from last night still holds a coal or two. Someone adds wood. You eat the meat from yesterday and a handful of gathered fruit. Breakfast is communal, unhurried. People talk, make loose plans, predict the weather. Later in the morning, a small group leaves to hunt or gather. Not every day. If there's food left from yesterday, there may be no reason to go at all. Those who stay behind repair tools, weave baskets, cure hides. But there is no overseer, no quota. You do the work because skill is respected, because mastery earns status, because you want to. If a hunt goes out, it does not look like a chase. Humans are persistence hunters. We follow an animal for hours, jogging, we sweat. The animal cannot sweat the same way. It overheats, it slows, it falls. The hunt and the return take 3 to 6 hours. The carcass comes back to camp and is divided. Everyone eats. By midday, the main work of the day is done. Then comes the part that is hardest for us to imagine. Anthropologist James Sussman lived with the Jew/Huansi for years. He described what happened in the afternoons. People sat in the shade and talked. They played with children. They groomed each other. They made beads. They carved patterns. They slept. Around 6 hours each day went simply to conversation. Not sleep, not labor, just being with other people. In a world without police or money, survival depends entirely on relationships. If no one likes you, no one shares with you when food is scarce. So time spent on friendship was not wasted time. It was the most important investment a person could make. Then the sun fell, and something remarkable happened every single night. Anthropologist Wiessner spent years recording Jew-Huansi conversations, hundreds of hours of them. She found a clear pattern. During the day, people talked about practical things, who had seen tracks, which fruits were ripe, who had failed to share fairly. But at night, around the fire, 81% of conversations were stories, myths about the origin of the world, ancestors who did impossible things, jokes that made the whole group laugh, tales of distant places none of them had seen. Wiessner believed this was where human culture was born. Gods, spirits, the past, the future. All of it emerging from storytelling around a fire after the work was done, and they did not sleep the way you sleep. Historian Roger Ekirch found something strange buried in old documents. Before electric light, human sleep was divided in two, a first sleep of roughly 4 hours, then an hour or two of quiet wakefulness in the dark, then a second sleep until dawn. In the 1990s, psychiatrist Thomas Wehr confirmed it experimentally. Remove artificial light, and within weeks the body returns to this two-phase pattern on its own. That quiet time between sleeps was not insomnia. It was something humans did. They thought, they prayed, they talked softly to whoever was near. Then, 12,000 years ago, the entire shape of human life changed. It started in the Fertile Crescent. Someone pushed seeds into soil. Crops grew. More food meant more people. More people needed more food. More food required more land. More land required more labor. Within a few generations, the trap had closed. The population had grown too large for hunting. Too many mouths. No way back. Farming required something hunting never did. You could not follow the animals when the field needed plowing. You could not disappear for a season when harvest was coming. Your time was no longer yours. It belonged to the land, and soon it belonged to whoever owned the land. Jared Diamond, the biologist, called the adoption of agriculture the worst mistake in the history of the human race. Not because farming was evil, because the bones told the truth. The first farmers worked more, ate worse, died younger, and once they started, they could not stop. Specialists appeared: potters, weavers, soldiers, priests, administrators, and finally, work. Your time is now owned by someone else in exchange for survival. The deal that would define every civilization that followed. By the time cities existed, the old life was gone, replaced by schedules, debts, and the obligation to be productive for the majority of your waking hours. You will spend 90,000 hours of your life at work. Your ancestors spent a fraction of that keeping themselves alive. You sleep in one unbroken block and call waking at 2 in the morning insomnia. They slept in 2 phases and thought quietly in the dark between them. You chase success by someone else's definition. They woke already free. You make art if there is time left after everything else. They made art because time was the one thing they had. We are the same species, the same brain, the same nervous system that gets exhausted and needs silence and reaches for beauty and wants to tell stories around fire. We just stopped living like it. 300,000 years of mornings without alarms. We are the first ones who set them ourselves. And somewhere in a cave in southern France, 36,000 years old, someone drew a horse in the dark for no reason at all except that it was worth doing. Maybe that's what we forgot. What was worth doing.